So I've got a build for you today, all based around the Solar Hunter, and I'm going to label it as an endgame build because I've run it in all the endgame stuff so far this season, and this build is still really strong. I'll be running this in GMs, I absolutely promise you, and what you're going to see in these next few clips is the amount of yellow numbers and explosions that you're seeing via Caliban's hand and solar ignitions. Look at the state of this battery champion. What happens to him? Poor fella just gets absolutely blown away. The full build is all based around Caliban's hand, and I'm also going to show you some of my absolute favourite weapons over the last couple of seasons with enhanced incandescent on and incandescent, and I could combine this to make an absolutely solid build. And I just want to say, I won't put a build out if I don't think it's good. This build is still good, very good, trust me. Just look at the state of these explosions in yellow numbers. The build is based around Caliban's hand. Your proximity knife scorches targets, it damages with its explosions or ignites targets on a fatal blow. What you really want to be doing is finishing an enemy off with that throwing knife to get huge ignitions like so. You're going to see this lost sector boss. This is just a normal lost sector, but it's for testing purposes, and he's gone. From one throwing knife, it's just exploded and killed everything in the room. And again, I just want to touch on some of the weapons that I'm running with this build to even enhance it. Fixed odds, the machine gun, I rolled that with an encore and enhanced incandescent. Absolute beast. Without remorse is another one. That's an absolute monster. Also again with enhanced incandescent and the emit auto rifle. These three this season because they're all champion mods one way or another. And this is the type of things you could do with them. Explosions, just absolutely blowing him away again. Absolutely huge ignitions. You got your Caliban's hand, as well as your enhanced incandescent weapons, or your incandescent weapons even. It's still going to work perfectly with them. Absolutely massive ignitions everywhere, clearing out 10 to 15 enemies with one knife. Sometimes it's absolutely nuts. Unstoppable shotgun without remorse. That shotgun, by the way, if you can get out of that, is absolutely insane. I've run it in everything this season. Stay tuned, I'm going to show you my aspects and fragments that you need to sort of get the best out of it. So the main three fragments that you need to use, like definitely, to get the most out of your Scorch and ignitions is Ember of Char, Ember of Ashes and Ember of Eruption. These three working together are what you need. Ember of Char, solar ignition spreads Scorch to anything you ignite, and then Ember of Ashes, you apply more Scorch to targets, and then Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions have an increased area effect. So they're the three that you need. They all work perfectly together. And then the other two that I like to run is Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and your nearby allies radiant. So you get a 25% damage buff with radiant. And by the way, that also stacks with Font of Might, which is another 25%. And then Ember of Solace, Radiant and Restoration effects applied to you have an increased duration, so we'll get 15 seconds of Radiant when we use this. And I just want to say again, Radiant does stack with Font of Might. So if you get Radiant going, and you can pick up some Elemental Wells, which I create loads on this build, which I'll show you some more of, you're going to have a 50% damage muff pretty much all of the time as well with this build, so it's super strong. And the two aspects I run are knock them down and on your mark. With regards to your grenade, you can run anything you want, it doesn't matter. I like to run a Trip Man. Incendiary grenade's pretty good, and a healing grenade as well if you want to heal. Proximity explosive knife, that's the one that you need to run for Caliban's hand. It won't work on any other knife, so it has to be a proximity knife or else it won't work. Like I said, I've got some more clips to show you now, but just keep an eye on this bottom left on this screen. What you'll see is I'm Radiant. I've also got the solar weapon boost, that's 50% damage increase, which you're going to get like quite often with this build because of the amount of wells that I'm creating. So you're always going to have your Radiant going from your throwing knife, and you're always going to have your solar weapon boost going on via Font of Might because of the wells I'm creating. So it's a 50% damage buff all the time. And what happens with the certain weapons that I've shown you without the remorse and the enhanced incandescent fixed odds machine gun, you're just going to randomly see explosions like so, like either from your knife or your machine gun or your shotgun. You just randomly, all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've killed 7 or 8 enemies in one one sort of ignition just when you're not expecting it. It's really nice. This is the 1600 Lost Sector, and it was just chewing through these enemies like pretty easily, to be honest, and it's just chewing through these void shields, and you see all them yellow numbers there. You just get that all the time with this build. So at the end of this video, what I'll do is I'll show you the well mods that I'm running and everything like that, and the armor mods, so you can really sustain like a high damage output as well as causing ignitions. And then the other thing to sort of touch on as well is like the Font of Might and the Radiant that I've got going all the time. That also affects your Scorch as well, so you can get some really high numbers on your Scorch if you've got Font of Might, for example, proccing at the same time. And then I just want to really quickly, before I show you my mods, just touch on how good them weapons that I've mentioned. I definitely recommend getting them without remorse, fixed odds if you can. But the build will work fine with normal incandescent weapons, but you're really going to enhance it with enhanced incandescent. You just cause carnage with it. Stay tuned, I'll show you my mods and armor mods setup. So this is now the final piece of the build. I've already told you my fragments and aspects that I'm running. These are just some mods that I use to enhance it. Elemental Ordnance, defeat a combatant with a grenade, spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type, so it's a solar well. I also like to run Seeking Wells. Elemental wells you create will move across the ground towards you and towards other players, so they could travel towards you nicely. Font of Might, picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type, grants a temporary bonus damage to weapon damage, so it's a 10-second damage buff per elemental well. It's a 25%, which does stack with Radiant, which you can proc all the time with your throwing knife. And this is why I run these two fragments, Ember of Torches and Ember of Solace. Torches makes you radiant, Solace makes the radiation last longer, 15 seconds, and then 10 seconds of Font of Might, both working together, 50% damage buff consistently. I know I've said it all the time, but it's quite important to sort of get that across. Well of Life is another one to run, that's optional. That gives you a bit of extra bit of healing, just sometimes you might need it if you're doing harder activities, but again you can switch this one out if you like for something else like Bountiful Wells or anything else if you like. And then the one that's an absolute must in this one is Explosive Wellmaker, defeating combatants with explosions, which you do an absolute load of explosions on this build. As you've seen, you're going to create wells everywhere, left, right and centre. Explosive Wellmaker creates a solar elemental well. Everything working together, create the wells, let the wells travel towards you. When them wells reach you, you're going to get a 25% damage buff with Font of Might, or 50 if you've got Radiant. Get some healing via Well of Life, and then on top of that, you're going to create loads and loads of solar wells for you and your teammates to get your abilities back. So that is it, that is the full build. I just want to sort of touch on these weapons again without remorse and the fixed odds. I'm not joking here, honestly these guns are absolutely insane. I know there's loads of guns at the moment with enhanced incandescent possibilities, but these two are absolute standouts, and they're both champion mods this season, Anti-Barrier and Unstoppable, one way or another. There's loads of weapons with incandescent on them, I'll leave a link. Let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And I also want to hear from you if you've been running solo builds over the last couple of weeks, or you're planning on running some solo builds, let me know. I hope this video has been good for you. I appreciate any feedback. Thanks for watching.